Hey everybody, welcome back. It is the Razzball Fantasy Football Podcast. I am Aidan, joined by my co-host, as always, Donkey Teeth. How's it going, DT?
What's up, Aidan? You like my Bears stocking cap?
I do, man. It's looking very festive now that we're officially past Halloween. That means that we skipped straight past Thanksgiving, and it's now Christmas time.
Yeah, and it's cold here. I was telling you before the show, it snowed. It snowed yesterday, so maybe that'll bring good things for the Bears. You need a little change in weather.
I don't think anything really is going to bring positive anything for the Bears, really. Um, Bears made a trade deadline move and moved a draft pick for a guy that was going to be a free agent after the season, not just a draft pick, a second rounder. So that was lovely trade work by the Bears yet again,
It's like a
trading second
repeat.
rounders.
Yeah, repeat of last year.
At least maybe he'll be off. He might be off the team come the end of the season. He may not even make it into week three where like Chase Claypool did.
Classic Bears.
It makes absolutely no sense to me. It's terrible it's tough being a Bears fan sometimes, man.
It is. Maybe one day things will turn around. I mean, back when we had Devin Hester, it was nice.
Yeah, I mean, back then we had Devin Hester, they had Urlacher, Briggs. I mean, there was a different team, different organization then to some extent. I mean, pretty much across the board, different organization. And we had Lovey, running the show. That hasn't been the case.
No. Let's talk about some start sits though.
Yeah, let's do some start sit and just I think we'll probably get into some general stuff this week. Just
We always do.
as we do, and it's perfectly fine. So let's just start with maybe I think this is probably the biggest one, and it was season ending. So Kirk Cousins is done. He had a torn Achilles. The Vikings then traded for Josh Dobbs, but he's not going to play this week. It's going to be Jaron Hall, the rookie, the fifth rounder, that's going to start out of BYU. While he is a rookie, he is out of BYU, which means he's about 48 years old. But I mean, where's your level of you know comfort starting anybody in the Vikings? I mean, Jordan Addison has done a good job filling in for Justin Jefferson. KJ Osborne has been okay here and there. Madison and Akers are now splitting, which means I don't know if you could trust either of them. But where are you at?
Yeah, I think it's another one of those tough weeks. Being on, there's a lot of bye weeks. I think was there 5 or 6 teams on bye this week. Seems like half of my rosters are on bye. Maybe it's just a bad one for me, but I suppose Jordan Addison's probably the one that. Hawkinson. I think Hawkinson you got to start. If you own Hawkinson, he's still a must start no matter who's back there. He just is like the offense seems to run through him at this point with Jefferson out. And then I think Addison is probably on the radar as a wide receiver 3. I'm going to be starting Madison. I'm not happy about it, but it's just due to lack of other options in bye weeks. Um, so, yeah, I don't want to start any of these guys other than Hawkinson, I guess is what it comes down to. I do like Dobbs, though. I feel like Dobbs he really surprised me in Arizona. So I'm cautiously optimistic about what that offense looks like in a couple weeks once he gets settled in and hopefully Jefferson's back. And, I've never been a huge Kirk Cousins fan. He gets the job done, but I don't think he was anything special. So I wouldn't be surprised if Dobbs comes in and they don't really miss too much of a beat.
Yeah, you hate Kirk Cousins for some reason.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I feel like he's always gotten the hate, whether it's deserving or not. It just has always been there. I mean, he's been 4,000 yards the last 3 years. He's been
Yeah, he had
29 or more
Jefferson.
touchdowns the last 3 years. I mean, even before that, I mean, he's had 4,000 yards in all but one season dating back to 2015. Like that's
the numbers are always there.
That's pretty solid.
He's always had great weapons. I think the coaching has been pretty solid for him. Offensive line has always been pretty solid. So, yeah, I mean he's a good NFL quarterback. There's no doubt. I just don't think that he's anything special.
Yeah, I think you're maybe overestimating the quality of quote unquote weapons that he had in Washington, and then when he got to Minnesota. But it's fine. Justin Jefferson definitely, a great player. I mean, he's if not the best among the best. But I mean, say
Thielen was in his prime.
Yeah, but like
Thielen was always great. And Dalvin Cook, I mean, you get Dalvin Cook running, and it just changes the whole offense. So.
Yeah, I mean it's fair. It was a run first offense, but the numbers are always there. I've always been a Kirk Cousins, value drafter. It always felt like just cheap production, but it's perfectly fine. We can move on from this. I mean, Jaren Hall, you're really not starting him unless you absolutely have to. Josh Dobbs, I agree. He looked pretty solid for a not explosive, not great Arizona team. So it's fairly interested to see what he could do with the right set of people around him. That being said, he's still probably like a QB at best, like a deep end QB2, and probably more likely high end QB3, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's some upside there. Like things could happen. Jefferson comes back, but yeah, usually you don't come in and just start tearing up the world in a new offense, right?
Yeah, I mean, generally speaking, it's going to be an adjustment period, but who knows? We'll see how that goes. I would say again, I think he's kind of at that start of QB3. Would you rather have him or Derek Carr?
I guess if we're talking about these guys, we're talking about super flex. So probably go with Dobbs, but I think it's the right area. And Carr's got a good matchup this week, so you can always kind of factor that in when you're going between two guys that are close, right?
Yeah, because if you never know what happens. Somebody gets injured, something else happens, all of a sudden the situation changes. But yeah, I mean, I think I would go Carr for the safety of what he's going to give you. But I don't, I think that's right in that area. Let's talk about him versus our next topic, which is Will Levis, who had 4 touchdown day, 19 and 28 or 19 and 29, sorry, for 238 yards. But with 4 touchdowns, has the numbers were there this week. Are you looking at the Tennessee offense any differently, specifically the pass catchers?
Yeah, I think they deserve a slight upgrade. I want to see it, one more week, right? Make sure it's not just a flash in the pan. But I was impressed, and there's obvious upside here, right? We've seen it over and over again. These guys just hit the ground running. We don't really expect it. Maybe some people expected it from Levis. I didn't. So I think he's must roster in Superflex leagues at this point. I'm not like a full believer yet, but show me one more week and I can start to get on board.
Yeah, I think the biggest beneficiary, and he came out a little banged up, is DeAndre Hopkins. It seemed like that was really where Levis looked.
Yeah, instant connection.
Yeah, so I think that's really my takeaway was I don't know that it changes anything for Treylon Burks other than it seems like Levis is maybe a little more willing to take the deep shot, and maybe just as an offense as a whole, they'll be a little bit more willing to take the deep shot as they let him kind of develop. But yeah, DeAndre Hopkins got targeted. He broke tackles. He got yards after catch. He did all the stuff that we haven't seen from him this season. So,
son of a bench, 3 touchdowns on my bench. I scored 60 points. He would have scored like half the points of my home league.
Yeah, so That's not great. I couldn't bring myself to bench him where I had him, so luckily I benefited from that. But it's hurt me pretty much the entire season up until this point. Kyler Murray is, speaking of the Josh Dobbs trade, it looks like he's going to be returning maybe as soon as this week. Is when he does return, are you then? Where does he immediately input for you amongst quarterbacks? And then does anybody in the, like Marquise Brown, I feel like has already kind of earned himself wide receiver 2-ish, or maybe a high end wide receiver 3 label already. Does he bump up for you, or does Rondell Moore, or anybody else kind of jump up for you? Or is it really just, Kyler fits where he does and Hollywood's still the wide receiver one?
I mean, like we said, Dobbs was pretty good. So, I don't think anybody deserves a huge upgrade. And we haven't seen Kyler yet, right? He might be a little bit rusty. But I think, Hollywood, you probably knock him up a little bit. And he's probably the main one. And then maybe the entire offense in general. But the backfield is kind of a mess as it is, right? Between Keontae Ingram has just disappeared, right? Yeah. Amari Supermarket, as I call him. So I think it's mainly Kyler. You want to roster him if you're desperate for a quarterback, because he could, we know his legs, right? He could easily become a QB1 the rest of the season, but you're also not excited to run out there and start him in a 1 QB league his first week back either.
Yeah. So, I guess if he's back this week, where's he kind of slotting in for you if he comes back this week at Cleveland, which is a terrible matchup for him to come back to?
Right. One of the best defenses. I mean, he's probably down back end QB2 around the Mac Jones, Jimmy Garoppolo, Baker Mayfield type area, maybe even below that group.
Okay, so really, really not wanting to start him, it sounds like.
Yeah, not in a tough matchup his first week back. I mean, next week probably a little bit more interest. I'm not sure who they play next week, but if he's back.
Are you starting Levis over him?
This week, yeah.
Okay.
We don't even know if he's playing, but hypothetically, right?
Hypothetically speaking, if he does play. And then rest of season, I know we're more start sit, but let's talk rest of season, and we got a little bit. Would you rather have him or Jared Goff, who's had a couple of down games?
We're talking Kyler?
Yes.
I think I got Kyler ahead. I just published my rest of season rankings. I've got Goff at number 10, actually, and Kyler at 12. So same type of area, slight edge to Goff.
Okay. I would probably go Kyler, assuming you had somebody to start this week, but I think that's probably the right tier. Him, I guess, now that you have your rankings out, is it him or Daniel Jones?
Daniel Jones is terrible.
I know he's terrible, but he's back again because Tyra got hurt, so now they need him. So now he cleared protocol immediately.
I have Daniel Jones at number 26 rest of the season.
Hey, Gino? What about your boy Gino? I know you're a Gino fan.
I am a Gino fan. I've got Gino at 16, so same kind of ballpark, but Kyler's up at 12, a little bit ahead of him.
Okay. So I think we have an idea where you're throwing him. Moving on to Matt Stafford, who has a sprained UCL in his right thumb, and I guess really the question is they haven't said whether he's going to play or not. I mean, I would think that seems like a serious injury that would be really hard to play through, but it's also Stafford. We've seen him play through, pretty much everything. Exactly. Whether it's him or Brett Rippon, how do you Ripien? Well, I don't know however you say his last name. I should know. How do you feel about starting? Because we obviously have Cooper Kupp and Puka, who have become must starts, and then Atwell's been a decent flex play, and he was as good as a wide receiver 2 at some points, while Kupp was out. Where are you at with the wide receivers given this situation for this week? Because we're in a situation where we don't know how Stafford's going to be. We don't know if he's even going to start. So
Yeah, like you said, I think Cup and Puka are must starts until they aren't. Like if Stafford's out and they just like totally eat shit, I think you still, even if like Stafford was out this week, Rippin, I think it's pronounced Rippin. If he comes in and is just horrible and Cup scores like 1 point and Puka scores 0 or something like that, I think I'm still starting Cup next week just because it's Cooper Cup. And Puka, maybe I'm put to the test there and might bench him in that case. But until something like that happens, I think you just keep starting these two guys and reassess as the weeks go on.
yeah, I think I'm with you. I think you just have to start them and hope for the best, regardless of who's back there. Now, the other question is, and this may factor in here, because if something's wrong with Stafford or if they have to go with Brett, then they may be looking at leaning on the run game. I mean, is it now Henderson or is Royce Freeman the guy? It seemed like it might be Henderson to some extent just because of the production, but then he got reverted back to the practice squad, which is, it's really just a transactional move, but not something you would do with a guy you would think might be the starting running back. So how are you seeing the Rams running back situation right now?
I think right now it's a situation to avoid until it becomes a little bit clearer. Like if you are totally desperate, right? Bye week issues and all that we talked about.
Yeah, I'm in this spot. I'm that that's one of the reasons it's in here is because I was looking at it today as I was going through my pickups, and yeah, Royce Freeman is going to be a starter for some teams this week.
Yeah, and I
Or
think
Darrow.
I think I could find better options than Royce Freeman. Like I don't know, maybe Royce Freeman is the guy. I don't trust it. I would go Henderson if I had the choice between the two of them. But yeah, I don't know. I'd rather take a dart throw on somebody else than Royce Freeman for
Yeah,
this week.
they're basically splitting 50-50 right now, so it's really hard to say that I think one or the other is the guy and that's from a snaps standpoint, not from a touches. Um, I think what I think they would like to happen is for Royce Freeman to be more of like a 65% guy, but he has to learn everything, whereas Henderson knows the entire
Right, he's been there.
offense. So I think it's just one of those situations where, and up until the point that Freeman can show he understands the offense, or potentially they're working Myles Gaskin to the point that he can work in the offense as well, because he didn't go to the practice squad for some reason, and Zach Evans, who was I believe a healthy scratch last week, or if he was out playing, he didn't get any touches. Like he didn't go back to practice squad either. It's just a very weird transaction that's throwing me for this weird loop right now.
Yeah, and the other question is when's Kyron Williams going to be back, right?
Yeah, I mean they still don't seem like they have a firm date for him. They sound very kind of pessimistic on when he's coming back. So at best, I believe he can come back week 12.
12. Yeah.
So that's still a few weeks away.
Still 3
Uh,
more, yeah.
yeah, so I would say for right now, I'm gonna go Freeman just because of this transaction. I'm gonna say Henderson is your 2, and then nobody else from this backfield really warrants a roster spot unless you're in very deep leagues.
Yeah, I'm reversed, but I wouldn't be shocked by anything here.
Yeah, I would have said Henderson, up until today when they made this transaction, and now I'm just I have no idea. So moving on, Kenny Pickett, he left with a rib injury. I mean, it was already a bad situation in Pittsburgh. They already were tough to trust. with him injured and Mitch in, are you feeling any better? Are you feeling worse? Is it just a complete avoid on the entire offense? Where are you at?
Well, I'm a huge George Pickens fan, so I'll still start him. I think it's pretty lateral from Pickett to Mitch, old Mitch. But yeah, you're not super excited about it, are you?
No, I'm not. And the fact that it's a Thursday night game isn't helping either. They're at home, so that helps. Mitch has always been at least acceptable at home, so that makes me feel, I think, a little bit better, and makes me. I think just thinking it through and talking it through here right now, I think I'm with you. I think it's pretty much lateral. I was gonna say it was a step down because of that, but having it at home has always seemed to be in favor of Mitch's play.
Yeah, the backfield's kind of a disaster, so I think that is an avoid. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if Jalen Warren ends up being slight lead over Najee Harris, but it just seems like a pretty even split at this point, and neither of them are really doing a whole lot.
Yeah, there's neither of them has taken it and run with it. Um, I guess I would lean Najee for this one just because I wouldn't expect Tennessee to just build up a lead to where they would be chasing, but it's been pretty even for the most part amongst them for, I mean, the entire season.
Yeah, just looking at where I've got them for this week. Uh, don't want to start either of them. Najee down high end RB3 and Jalen Warren low end RB3 for me this week. So
Okay.
I'm with you. Slight edge to Najee, but not excited.
Yeah, not excited for either one of them. Moving over to a couple of new starters here that have been named. Aidan O'Connell has been named the starting quarterback for the Las Vegas Raiders, and Taylor Heinicke is going to be starting this Sunday for Atlanta. Does this change anything for you? I mean, it really couldn't be worse, could it?
No. Yeah, I mean, you tell me what you think about Atlanta as the local Atlanta beat guy down there.
Ritter looks awful. So I don't think this is worse. I think the one thing it may do is redistribute targets because Ritter had kind of decided on Drake London as his guy. And Drake London is banged up as well. So that could also add a wrinkle in here. I think this probably helps Bijan and Pitts the most. And maybe Johnny Smith, since Arthur Smith just, I mean, maybe they're like fifth cousins and Jonu knows some shit. I don't know what's going on in that. But I think those are probably the two beneficiaries that I'm looking at. And in deeper leagues, I think Van Jefferson might actually be interesting. With Drake London out, Van Jefferson actually led the team in snaps this week, and they don't have anybody else really. So Van Jefferson could be the wide receiver one if Drake London has to miss some time here.
Interesting. On the Raiders front, you're right. It can't be any worse. I was at that
Goodness.
Bears Raiders game, and it was just like I think Josh McDaniels being gone, like it has to be a good thing. It's just like the play calling was so bad in that Bears game. They came out on the first drive, and it was just Davante Adams, Davante Adams, Davante Adams. Like we couldn't stop him. The Bears could not stop him, and then they just didn't throw him again for like 2 quarters. So, yeah, Hoyer looked pretty terrible in that game as well. So I think Aidan O'Connell makes a lot of sense versus going back to Hoyer and kind of see what you got there and hopefully their play calling gets a little bit better because it's pretty inexcusable for Davante Adams to be looking the way that he is for him not to get more work.
Yeah, it's pretty ridiculous. I kind of thought he might get moved at the deadline, but I figured just the way it is the way of the NFL. The NFL deadline is just not that exciting,
Not like the
unfortunately.
MLB.
No, it's not at all. There's a few moves made, and that's usually it, and it's usually pretty injury related. So unless there's an injury, we don't normally see a lot of things happen. I mean, O'Connell's obviously a rookie. He's out of Purdue, fourth rounder. He looked okay at college at times, but then he looked really bad at times in college too. So it's one of those situations where I agree it can't be any worse, and that's about as far as I'm willing to go at this point. But I wouldn't expect targets to be redistributed. I expect Davante Adams to be the key to the passing game there at least. But I would have thought that the entire time. So we will see what happens there. Addition by subtraction, though, because it was terrible in losing Josh McDaniels. Who keeps hiring him? This is ridiculous. Why does he have a job? Like what? A job. Why is he a starting head coach? Like a head coach. There's 32 of those positions in the entire world, and like he's it. No, come on now.
Well, he doesn't have a job anymore.
No, this is true. This is true. He no longer is one of those 32. He can go back to the one thing he can do, which is run the same boring offense that he has run in New England for forever. So that's probably what he'll do. He'll probably go back to New England and do that again. Speaking of New England, the wide receivers they're starting to drop left and right. Kendrick Bourne has an ACL. He's done for the season. And then actually, I guess he only has one ACL left now. Devontae Parker had a concussion or some kind of head issue. He got hit hard. They haven't said exactly what it is yet. Are you looking at anybody in New England as a beneficiary or somebody that might become more interesting, given that they're going to miss the two pass catchers here?
Yeah, I mean, I think you got to be interested in Demario Douglas now that Bourne is out. Douglas was already kind of on the move up. He was trending upward, I'll say. He had 6 targets 2 weeks ago and 7 targets last week, so he seems to be the favorite there. I mean, he could be their wide receiver 1 rest of season, which still not saying a lot, right? But maybe back end wide receiver 2. There's some potential there. So I actually added him in Scott Fishbowl last week. I'm having my home leagues beat on. They're going pretty terribly this year, but I'm doing really well in Scott Fishbowl and really well in Razzball. So just give me some. I play up to my competition.
Yeah, I suppose that's a good way to do it. Given the wide variety of leagues that we play. But we know based on some of the performances from some of our own league mates from our home leagues that we compete with some people who are a little bit better than maybe they would get credit for it. Otherwise, my Razzball team is sitting like straight smack dab, I think, in the middle of everything. So it's not been a great season in the Razzball or Scott Fishbowl. I finally got a healthy game from McCaffrey and Eckler, and had a very successful week. But my home leagues are doing great for the most part. So I guess I'm the opposite side right now. I'm not. I'm just beating up on the home league players.
Yeah, I guess a little tangent here, Beat-On. It's not that the people in our home leagues aren't skilled or don't know what they're doing. It's the structure of the leagues. Like the people in my main home league, they just don't want to go away from this like super traditional shallow league, and it just brings in so much luck that it's hard for the people that put a lot of effort in to really separate themselves, which I think is kind of the point. They want it to be a total crapshoot, so everybody has you don't need any knowledge, so whatever.
Yeah, nope. And as we say that, I just want to say that if anybody in my home leagues is listening, you're all trash, and
I hate you all.
Yeah, bring it on. But yeah, I think Demario Douglas, I think, is the primary guy. I also think Hunter Henry, who started the season strong, kind of dipped and is started to come back a little bit. I think he could be a primary beneficiary and just the number of targets that are available. Mike Gesicki might get more work in as well, as he's pretty much run, out of off-line position this year. And Juju could get more time, as well as Jalen Reagor, who they grabbed, actually got a good amount of snaps after the injury. So just a few names if you're looking around on your wire and you've got some spots open or you're in deep league, this might be a place we could find some points. And I really hope at some point we get to see Bailey Zappi because Mac Jones looks bad too.
Yeah, I just picked him up to start in a deep dynasty league too. He was available because he's that bad. Deep dynasty league. I got some
Yeah,
bye week issues, so Kyler Murray hurt.
not great if a starting quarterback is available in a deep dynasty period. So to have a young one out there, you know what that says about the quality of player. Your boy, Darren Waller has a hamstring. It seems to be his. I don't know what his hamstrings are made of, but he needs some improvement in that area.
Yeah, he's
Are
with
you
the Percy Harvin hamstrings.
are you interested in anybody in New York? Given some targets should be opening up since Waller was maybe the one bright spot in the entire passing game.
Not really. I mean, you heard how low I have Daniel Jones ranked rest of season. So yeah, I mean Bellinger, right? Like he assuming Waller's out, we don't know for sure, right? But assuming Waller is out, he's probably going to be out, I would guess. Bellinger becomes interesting in deeper leagues if you're desperate at tight end. But I think that there's some other guys that are available in a lot of leagues that I would rather take a shot on for this week. Trey McBride comes to mind. He was kind of a hot name this week. Logan Thomas, our guy Cole Kmet, and Njoku. I would take all those guys over Bellinger personally.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I would agree with all those names. And I mean the New York pass catchers they've been awful outside of Waller. So I'm not really looking to throw any darts there. I guess if I have to, I'm going with Slayton and Wandale just because they've been getting the snaps. But that's literally the best thing I can say about them.
Yeah, I like Wandale. It'd be nice to see him, have a quarterback that was competent. And I mean, we've seen flashes from Daniel Jones. It's not like there isn't some hope for him, but he's looked horrible this year.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we've seen flashes from I feel like everybody in the Giants receiving core at different times. It's just not happening right now for any of them. Donovan Peoples-Jones got traded to the Lions. Does this change anything for you in Detroit?
No, it doesn't. I mean, I think for Peoples Jones, there's a little bit more long-term hope. Like he's talented, and if the Lions are going out to get him, they must see something and hope to utilize him. We'll see if it actually happens, right? But I think little stock up for Peoples Jones in Dynasty League. That's about all we can say here.
Yeah, I don't quite honestly understand it other than just adding some depth here. They got Jameson Williams back. They've been working him in. Maybe they're just not sold on Jameson Williams being up to speed. Um, and maybe that's what it is. So I think that's the only area where it may hurt either Jameson or Reynolds in regards to snaps. We'll have to see how that plays out. But Amon-Ra's still a must start. And other than that, I don't think anything's really changing.
Right.
Moving over to the couple of running back topics here. Gus Edwards had 19 carries, 80 yards, 3 touchdowns, 2 receptions for 14 yards. Justice Hill had 8 touches and had 55 yards on those 8 touches. Is this the Gus Edwards show, or was it is this still a backfield you're not really willing to trust anybody?
Yeah, I'm not trusting him. I mean, like we keep saying, right? Bye weeks are tough, injuries are tough. So I get it if you got to start Gus Edwards. I'm not starting Justice Hill. Um, I've been fooled a couple times on Justice Hill already here. So, yeah, if I have to start one, it's Gus Edwards, but I don't feel confident. Like I think any sort of game script could flip it to Justice Hill, and then you've always got Lamar there, right?
Yeah, that's very fair. Fair points on both. It sounds like I like Gus a little bit more than you do. Just he's getting, averaging like 15 plus touches over the last 3 games. I feel like they're using him to, do the actual running in between the tackles at least, or the planned running. So just the base of touches, I think, is buying him a spot this week specifically because of the lack of options out there and all of the injuries. I would say he probably falls to, I don't know, probably like running back 20. Sound right?
For this week, yeah, I think
Yeah.
that's probably, yeah. Which, yeah, I mean, you probably got to start him in most leagues, right?
Yeah. I mean, I would think most leagues you're having to run them out there given, the bye weeks. I mean, we're missing the Niners, Jags, Lions, and Broncos. That's at least 4 starting running backs, if not potentially more. So yeah, I would think that he's a must start for the most part. And I guess just to put him up against a couple of guys there, would you rather start him or Aaron Jones versus the Rams?
Uh, Aaron Jones for me, but I think you are in the right ballpark.
Yeah, I mean the Green Bay running game hasn't been anything to write home about either. I think
And
I'm actually,
their offense as a whole.
yeah, I think I'm actually going with Gus just because it seems like there's a guaranteed a kind of amount of, again, carries or touches that Gus is getting that I don't know that any running back in Green Bay is going to get because they're just splitting carries and it's just making both of them completely useless for our game and for the offense, it seems.
Yeah, I'm still going Jones personally, but I mean we know Jones' upside, and they're splitting carries in Baltimore too. So
Yeah,
I
that's
don't blame
fair.
you, but yeah,
What about Najee? We talked about Najee earlier. Would you start Gus over Najee?
yeah, that one's pretty easily Gus for me over Najee.
All right.
He's really been brutal.
All right. What about Rashad White? Last one.
Rashad White, I'll
Okay.
take Rashad. Yeah,
I would agree. I'm going with Rashad as well. Um, but at Houston again, not an ideal one for running backs either. So I could see, but I think that's the right area for him. Is that Rashad White? He's probably right after him. Um, and Javonte Williams in Denver finally with what seems like the change here a little bit. He had 63% of the snaps this week. That's the most he's had at any point all year, and that is with both P. Ryan and McLaughlin healthy and starting. Are you ready to put Javonte back into like that RB1 or top end RB2 territory, or are you still a little hestitant?
still a little hesitant, but I mean that would be a huge move up in my rankings personally. I have moved him up a lot, so he's now become a back end RB2 rest of season for me. So I am cautiously buying, but I'm not going to crown him RB1 or anything yet. Like he was last year. I mean, he was an RB1 last year until he got hurt in those first couple weeks. So yeah, I know that they like Jaleel McLaughlin still. So like I wouldn't be shocked if they balance it out a little bit more. But also, I mean, they had a great game this week, so maybe it's not broke, don't fix it, and you keep leaning on Javonte, right?
Yeah, I mean, I love Javante, so I maybe am a little biased here. I think he's coming in at like RB12, RB13 for me right now, just given that some haven't produced to the extent that we were, obviously looking at
Well, then
for this year.
let me put you to
Maybe
test here. Let me
okay,
give
yeah,
you a couple here.
maybe I'm looking at it and being a little bit more optimistic or than I should be. But I mean, I guess I just like him. But yeah, give me some names.
Josh Jacobs or Javonte.
I'll take Jacobs.
How about your boy Mixon?
Mixon.
How about Mostert?
Um, I will probably take Javonte there, but I'm biased and hate Raheem Mostert. It's Raheem Mostert, so I don't necessarily know when the injury's coming, but I'm pretty sure it's coming.
How about DeAndre Swift? He's been great.
I'm taking Swift. I love me some DeAndre Swift.
I think you probably have him like a little bit lower than you were saying off the top of your head. You're probably in like the 15-inch range on Javonte, I would guess, which is solid. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's like I said, low end RB1, high end RB2 territory. He'd probably be tiered in with. I think Swift's offense is just so much better that he's safer. But I'd probably put him in with like banged up Derrick Henry, Jonathan Taylor splitting carries. I think he's kind of in the group with them.
Yeah, Montgomery banged up was awesome before, but
yeah, I mean that's one area where Jameer. I think I'd take Javonte over Monty just because Jameer played so well that they may be looking at a different snap count that Monty might be coming back to. I know that's me being optimistic on the Lions running game again, which we said we wouldn't do ever again, but they're pulling back in.
I feel like we also like predicted this exact scenario like week 2 or something like that when we were talking about Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery and all that. Like, oh, if Montgomery gets hurt and Gibbs gets a little more opportunity, that's the scenario where Gibbs takes off, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, he just shows what they brought him in for, which is to make big plays happen. And he can do that.
Yeah.
All right, man. Last thing. Asshole of the week. We gotta crown one, or maybe one each here. I know who mine is. It was very clear for me, but I'll let you go first if you have one.
Well, my main one was the Bears. We already talked about it. Like trading to win, like you did it last year, worked horribly. I remember talking about the Claypool trade last year. And you just go ahead and do it again. Like what? It's even worse this time. Yeah, so that's my main one. I had another one. Let me see if I can think of it while you're giving your asshole of the week.
Yeah, mine is mine actually just lost his job, so he got what was coming to him. Jimmy Garoppolo was just awful, just so horrendous in the entire game. And as you mentioned, the play calling did him no favors. But if you just watched him in that game, it was so embarrassing. The throws he was making. Davante Adams this week ended up with one reception for 11 yards. He could have had, I don't know, like
probably 2 touchdowns pretty easily.
He could have had, I think 4. I think I looked at it. There's at least 3, and maybe even 4 touchdowns that he would have had without not me putting in him breaking 5 tackles, like him literally just strolling in or catching it in the end zone that just weren't there because Garoppolo can't hit the broad side of a barn. Like it was so horrible. I'm glad that we get to see something else there. I'm a little disappointed for Davante Adams' career that he didn't get to move on and go somewhere else. But here we are.
Yeah, I mean, and again, we can throw McDaniels in the asshole of the week bucket too, just with this whole situation. So I think that's another good one. And he's fired, so maybe we shouldn't kick him while he's down.
I mean, he's not going to hear it. It's fine. Might as well.
Plenty of assholes to go around.
He has plenty of guaranteed money in his contract because the coaches get guaranteed money, of course. That I don't feel bad about kicking him while he's down. Not at all. Yeah. All right, DT. As always, if you're listening, if you have specific start sit, send it to us on Twitter. I am at RazBeaton. DT is at DonkeyTeeth87. You can also find us at razzball.com/ youtube.com/Razzball Fantasy. If you want to see the video version, put your questions in the comments there as well. DT, until next week, good luck in your matchups. Talk to you later.
Sounds good. Talk to you all next week.